had a storied career at Bank of America as their lead research director on fixed income and much others, and is one of the great China watchers and Pacific Rim watchers out there now, always writing for Asia Times. And we're thrilled that on short notice on the New York Stock Exchange, Mr. Goldman to join us this morning. David, thank you so much for taking time with us. What would you presume will be the response of Beijing to this battle within the American government of a strident executive order and then a Department of Treasury that says no?
I think Beijing is going to be triumphalist, Tom. By the way, thank you for all the kind words. I think what the world has figured out is that China is too big to boycott. It's becoming the world's largest economy and one of the world's largest capital markets with an extremely strong currency, the only real positive real interest rates in the world. So the attempts by the Trump administration to play whack-a-mole with China by dinging them on stock listings here or technology exports there are collapsing. And there's a much more widespread pattern in which the Trump administration delivers an order which is then ignored and sabotaged by lower levels of the bureaucracy, which are trying to maintain business as usual. American tech companies are selling all the chips they want to Huawei through intermediaries mainly in Europe under Commerce Department licenses. It's simply not well publicized, but it's been in the trade press. By the same token, I think the Treasury regulators figured out that the consequences of attempting to delist major Chinese stocks, we're talking about the Chinese equivalent of AT&T and T-Mobile, would lead to retaliation and all kinds of negative consequences. And with the Trump administration leaving in a couple of weeks in any case, they effectively told the New York Stock Exchange, don't bother with this, which is why the stock exchange turned around. It is unseemly, it is chaotic, but the fact is you cannot use random regulatory measures to try to hold back a large and growing economy. It was an incompetent policy, and I think the incompetence is recognized at various levels of the bureaucracy, so it's crumbling across the board.
Well, but David, there is a question of the precedent that it sets. I mean, leaving aside the legitimacy of the executive order, as you phrased it, just going forward, this idea that the executive branch could come out with an order that could be undercut by lower level of bureaucratic departments in the name of capitalism, in the name of keeping markets moving smoothly. How much does this reduce the power, the potency of a Biden administration in dealing with China?
I think it's clear that there were signals from the Biden camp that a more pragmatic and flexible approach would come in with the new administration, which is one of the reasons the New York Stock Exchange turned around. So to some extent, the Biden administration is, the Biden transition team is complicit in this. But your point is extremely well taken. The original order was not illegitimate, but it was stupid. And the fact that it was effectively sabotaged at lower levels of the bureaucracy reduces credibility in the American executive. It's a very sad day for American capital markets and American governments.
David, what should be the foreign diplomacy projection? One of the first times I met you, David, was a Bank of America soiree over a lousy cup of coffee in Singapore, back when we were a multilateral nation. When we pick up the debris of that November 12th executive order, and clearly the Treasury Secretary Mnuchin saying no, there's no other way to put it, as we can, what do you perceive January and February to be for United States foreign policy with China?
Well, the Europeans have already given us the heave-ho and signed the comprehensive agreement on investment over American objections last week. And the Japanese and their other allies have signed the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership with China in November, which Nikkei this morning describes, Japanese newspaper describes as a great victory for China. The giant sucking sound you hear is the capital flows and trade flows coming to China and overwhelming the political objections. So the only thing we can do to hold China back is to get our own economic act in order and have a stronger economy than they do.
David, one final question, and again, thank you so much on short notice for coming to us on
thank
this.
You, Tom.
The great silence has been on Taiwan. Just if I give you a statement, Taiwan after Trump, what will that look like?
Well, the best case scenario is that nothing happens because China will not accept an infringement of the one China policy, which every U.S. president since Nixon has signed on to the extent that China believes that the United States is trying to foster an independent Taiwan and a break with the one China policy, they will react militarily, either by threats or, heaven forbid, by action. So the best thing to do, given the fact that the United States does not want a hot war with China at this point, that would be catastrophic, is to maintain the one China policy fiction, reinforce Taiwan quietly sufficiently to raise the cost of a Chinese attack on China, but not in such a way as to provoke China openly. It's a very delicate situation to which there's no real good solution except to kick the can down the road.
David Goldman, one final question back to the fixed income space of yesteryear as well. Do you have a confidence that we unwind from these low yields and high prices in fixed income with stability, or do you just assume jump conditions?
Well, the central banks of the world cannot buy the debt of their governments and finance their deficits indefinitely. The Herb-Stein rule applies, something that can't go on further won't. I do not believe that during 2021 we will get a reversal of the negative real interest rates in the West. I think the central banks will continue to support the market. I believe this will lead to a weaker dollar. At some point down the road, that may become an intolerable situation, but going back to China, this is going to keep capital flows going because the Chinese market, we will still get 2% positive real interest rates.
I got 8 more questions in no time. David Goldman, thank you for joining us today. We'll have David Goldman come back and talk about Pacific Rim currency dynamics here at a point, and let me guess, there'll be something on China policy as well. Writing in Asia Times. Coming up, we drive forward the conversation.